So for me personally, I haven't paid for a flight since 2019. It's not magic, it's a strategy that everyone can access. And basically with a bit of forced frugality, it is something that's available to all of you guys. How can your business give you the holiday that you deserve? Today we're talking about something that every business owner dreams of, a well-earned family holiday. And even better, a well-earned family holiday that's funded by your business activities. It's all about knowing what's out there and what's on offer, and then just really taking it and using it and then working the system to benefit for your own gain. So for me, like you might have noticed on my social media over the last year, I've been able to go to Thailand, I've been to Bali. Later on this month, we're going to the west coast of America. We're going to do a whole lot of Disney adventure. And it's all because of the secrets I'm going to be sharing with you today. And for me, I want you guys to have amazing holidays as well, because remember, I'm all about how you guys can have a better business. And I want to share these things with you so that you can do what I'm doing. It's just basically taking your everyday activities, changing a few things, and then being able to get what you need, what you deserve, so that you can have the life or a business that serves you. If we're not growing, you're not growing. Thank you for joining us. Who am I? My name is Nathan Rigney. I'm a profit generator and I am a CPA and I'm a profit first professional. And I'm all about you guys having a business that serves you and not the other way around. So if you're a faithful regular, thank you for tuning in again. Welcome back and give us a love and thank you for supporting the content. So before we get into it, just a little bit of a general advice disclaimer. So everything I share in this podcast, it is general in nature and it doesn't take into account your personal circumstances. So always seek advice from a qualified professional who understands your unique situation before acting on anything I talk about here. So basically, talk to your accountant. If I'm your accountant, talk to me. If I'm not your accountant, maybe you should reach out to me and I'll talk to you about all these things. So in today's episode, we are diving into 4 powerful ways your business can help you get the holiday you deserve. So we're going to be talking about how you can use everyday business expenses to fund your flights. We're going to talk about what you should do when it comes to picking the right airline rewards program, because that's really important to make sure you can maximize those reward points. We're going to be talking about how setting up a business that keeps running whilst you're away, and that's very important. And lastly, we're going to talk about a business and private travel, tax deductibility, and how your business could effectively pay for some of your holiday. So, reward points. So reward points using credit cards. This is a great way to basically help fund flights. So generally speaking, everyday business expenses, most businesses these days accept some form of credit card. And there's a few different credit cards out there, but generally speaking, the credit card that gives you the best points, in my opinion, is pretty much American Express. And on that basis, I use an American Express to pay for a lot of my business expenses. So most businesses now, they accept Amex, but there are a few that don't accept American Express. And on that basis, I actually use a second card. So I've got a Visa card with ANZ, and I use that for all my purchases that won't accept Amex. So on top of that as well, when you are making business expenses, you'll notice as well that some businesses will charge like an additional merchant fee on top. And from a tax perspective, it's tax deductible, but there's no point, like for me, I don't believe that you really want to be paying extra money just to gain a point. So on that basis, I tend to use my Visa, which typically speaking, like Amex has a higher points per dollar spend, whereas Visa is much lower. It's about half. But in saying that as well, I believe that I don't want to be paying lots of money out just to make a payment for the business. So it's the way I look at it is that I just want to make my ordinary expenses, and if a business accepts American Express, I'm always going to use that. And if they don't, for whatever reason, I'll use the Visa. But either way, I want to make sure I'm doing all my payments through a credit card that gives me a point back for every dollar I spend. And the reality is for every point I spend, I get another Qantas point that then gets me closer towards another holiday. Now, sometimes as well, with a lot of your business expenses, things like, for example, paying staff payroll or doing ATO payments like your BAS, there's always going to be like contractors or suppliers that don't have any real merchant facility set up to accept a credit card. On that basis there, if you are really keen on getting more points, there are platforms out there where you can pay extra money to make those payments through a platform that then gives you points. For example, if you wanted to, you could pay your staff through a platform. I'm going to talk about where you can make payments that are not traditional credit card payments, is pay.com.au. Now, I don't use pay.com.au, but I've looked into it for quite a few times. I'm not personally convinced that it works. I mean, it works, but I'm not convinced that the cost is actually worth the benefit of getting the points. But effectively, pay.com.au, it is a B2B platform that allows you to earn reward points on all of your business payments. So using the platform and your credit card while paying a fee to access the credit card terms that they have. And so ordinarily, you wouldn't be able to access this for typical payments like payroll or other business expenses where they don't have a merchant facility. It's an additional method you can use to boost your cash flow and also get additional points where you ordinarily wouldn't get them. Something, for example, maybe paying the payroll for the staff for the fortnight. It's another great way of going. If you don't have the cash flow to make your payments, then maybe you can use a platform like this to then make those payments and get some points along the way. But the thing is, there are costs to use it. All right, so let's talk about how you can gain Qantas reward points or just even airline reward points so that then you can fund that next holiday. So for me, a lot of the stuff I talk about is very much Qantas based because I am on the Qantas program. We'll just go through this example on how we use the Qantas credit card and the Amex and a Visa to basically gain points. So let's assume that for the month you've got $20,000 of expenses. And let's say that $15,000 goes on the Amex and $5,000 goes on the Visa card. So if we look at that, the Amex is going to give you 1.25 points based on the Qantas Business Rewards card per dollar you spend. And let's just say with a MasterCard or a Visa, it gives you 0.75 points for every dollar you spend. So if we look at basically that spend of the 15 grand on the Amex and 5 grand on the Visa, you could have reward points that comes to 18,750 on the Amex and on the Visa or the MasterCard, 3,750. So in total, you would have 22,500 points. And if that was your average spend per month, it would be around 270,000 points for the year. Just for your ordinary expense, no additional cost, you're getting 270,000 points. Say for example, with Qantas, to go and fly somewhere. Now here's the thing, right? To put in perspective, you've got 270,000 points that you and a friend can use to get somewhere. So let's look at maybe some economy seats that you could do. So for each way, it's 14,400 between Sydney to Perth or Perth to Sydney. For you and your friend, if you were going there, coming back, total points would be 57,600 points. Or let's talk about another example. Maybe you wanted to go to Tokyo. Sydney, Tokyo, one way is 31,500 points plus taxes. And so this is all on the Qantas website at the moment. So return for you and a friend, it would be 126,000 points. Or if you wanted to go, say, economy Sydney to New York, one way is 55,200 points plus taxes, but return for you and a friend, total points is 220,800 points. So 270,000 points for the whole year. You can see this is going to get you, at best, a holiday to New York return. And that's just from doing everything that you're already doing at the moment, except changing the way you make your payments by using a credit card. Now, if you wanted to use the additional website I was telling you before, the platform using pay.com.au, as an example, if you had expenses on that platform in conjunction with your American Express of say 25,000, and that could be something like maybe an ATO bill or supplier payments, $25,000 of expenses could gain you 56,250 points. But there is a little bit of a cost to it. So let's run through that and see how that calculates through. So pay.com.au has 3 membership categories, and the premium membership gives you the most points. So a premium membership is $165 a month. And then if you were to put through on that platform $25,000 of expenses for the month, you would have a rewards processing fee of $450 and then a credit card fee of $483, all right? So the total expenses are rounded up to about $1,099. So after tax, assuming you get 25% company tax rate, the net cost is $824. So what you got to consider is something like this platform for $824 for 56,000 points, it's almost a round trip from Sydney to Perth. And you need to ask yourself if the points are worth the expense. And maybe that is an option that you want to consider, maybe it's not. But if, say, for example, cash flow is really tight and you do have issues where you do need to get some short-term lending, it's probably actually not a bad thing for you to do because you don't have to pay. It's effectively using your credit card to make payments for items that ordinarily you wouldn't be able to use a credit card with. Now, as long as you're paying your credit card off by the end of the month and you're using the interest-free period, it can work out quite well. And if you were to do that and yes, you're okay with that cost, it means you're going to get some points along the way. But personally for me, I'm not 100% convinced that an option like pay.com.au is actually worth doing. If you're needing that cash flow support, like I said, maybe it's something that is a good option. Personally for me, when I look at the credit cards, when it comes to Visa and MasterCard, there's a whole lot of them out there. I know NAB at the moment has a pretty good deal where you get sign up with 200,000 points. But for me, the preferred credit card is the American Express Qantas Business Rewards. And on the basis that if you're a good money manager and you can pay the card off in full every month, it's a great sort of system. You can earn 1.25 points on everyday business expenses. You can also get access to various American Express benefits and Qantas membership in domestic airport club lounge passes. If you're new to the American Express as well, they have a really good sign-up bonus as well, where they will give you 150,000 Qantas points just for signing up. And I will share that link with you guys so that if you are interested in actually going, how can I use the American Express card and get some bonus points, this is a great way to get those. So it's a great card to use, but like I said, you've got to look into it and make sure it works for you as well. So the next thing I want to talk about as well is about the importance of choosing the right airline rewards program. The reality is that you want all your points to accumulate in one spot. And there really is in this country, if you're doing a lot of domestic travel and a little bit of international, there really is two options to choose from. You've probably really got the Qantas Frequent Flyer program or the Virgin Velocity program. Now, both airlines are great. I love both airlines. I've always loved Virgin. I think Qantas is great too. You just really need to do your research on each program, work out what suits you best. It could be something as simple as that maybe, where you live, that airline doesn't fly into, especially if you're regional. But ideally, you want to have one program that you participate in where you accumulate points in the one spot. And often you work up a higher balance on your rewards based on how many flights you're using with that airline and then other interactions you might have with that airline. So I personally think that a lot of the program benefits that are out there, as a whole, me personally, I think they all point towards Qantas being the most favourable, the most options, especially being here in Australia. And I think we, as Australians, we tend to favour towards Qantas, and I think the government does as well. So there tends to be a lot more options there, in my opinion. Like a lot of the bigger companies in Australia are partnered up with Qantas. So for example, when I talk about choosing the right airline and the right program, it's also then looking at other providers that are out there you ordinarily use all the time and using them to then gain points with Qantas. So as an example, gaining points using companies like Red Energy. So for me at home, I changed all my energy to Red Energy, but I also did make sure as well that whatever I was paying compared to the previous company to the new company when I went to Red Energy, I wasn't paying more than what I was before. So the cost of the energy was still the same, and then I'm also reaping the benefits of now getting rewarded with Qantas points for being with Red Energy. The Woolworths Everyday Rewards program, you can convert your everyday spend with Woolworths into Qantas points. And other companies like BP, Hoyts, Avis, and other smaller retailers have really good programs where you spend with them and they will give you Qantas points in return. Now, the Velocity program does something very similar, and it has some very good partnerships as well. And like I said, it comes back to, I guess, where you like to shop and what you like to do and who you interact with. So, for example, they have a partnership with Flybuys, which is really Coles and Kmart and Officeworks and 7-Eleven, Hertz and Medibank. And so they've got really good partnerships, but I just don't feel it is as extensive as what the Qantas program has and other companies that are out there that you can then tap into for the spend that you're spending and then getting the points back. Like I said, it's about finding a program that suits you and then sticking to that program and just being really loyal to that program. So let's talk about number 3. The next thing I want to talk about is how having a business that continues to operate while you're on holiday. Now, it's one thing to talk about how you can get points and have the points hacks and all the things that are out there to basically fund your flights. But the reality is that you still need to remember that when you go away, that your business is still operating, you can still get paid, because the reality is that when you're on holidays, your mortgage or rent, all the other expenses you have in your business are going to continue. They don't stop whilst you're on holiday, they don't stop when you're pausing and relaxing, they still continue. So the last thing you need while you're holidaying is stressing about what is happening when you're not there, or worse, being in a position where the business just doesn't generate any income when you're not there, or not having enough funds personally to pay all those expenses whilst you're away. So for this reason, you need to spend a little bit of time on focusing on really understanding the processes, systems and staff, and making sure that the staff are not reliant on you and that it operates by itself. So this is a bit of the stuff I talk about in my Profit First programs. Secondly, it's about the bills in your business and your personal expenses, that they're going to continue whilst you're not working. And even if you've got all the processes and staff sorted out, it's still important to have cash flow and the right framework that continues to pay you whilst you're not there. In simple terms, if you don't have the funds collected or they've been put away, you're going to get to the point where, you're going to stress so much when you're going away because you're not going to be able to pay your rent, mortgage, or whatever else. And this is where the Profit First stuff comes in that I teach. It's really important that whilst you're putting cash away week after week in your allocations, that you're putting money aside for when you're not working. So when you're not doing income producing activities, or that you're basically away or sick, that you can continue paying yourself. So it's really about having some cash flow forecast or a framework that puts cash away for when you're not working so you can continue getting paid from the business whilst you're not there. So the fourth thing I want to talk about as well is how you can use your business travel and a little bit of private travel at the same time, and how this could effectively pay for some of your holiday. So if you're traveling for work purposes, like a conference or other business related travel, your travel costs could be like, for example, airline tickets, accommodation, food. It can all be tax deductible if you're going away for work purposes. Now, before we talk about tax deductibility and all the rest of it, it's really important that whenever I travel for business purposes, that first of all, I always travel with Qantas because that's the preferred rewards program I have, and that's where I continue to gain more points when I get on a Qantas flight that I've paid for. But then also, I pay for the flights of my Amex, I get the reward benefits, and I never use the accumulated points that I am getting from my business, like I talked about at the start of the video, the start of the podcast, for any private travel. Because the reality is that the flights that I'm having, because they're business related and they're directly linked to my activity in earning business income, I pay for them using cash, or I guess the credit card, effectively not using the points I've collected along the way, because when I pay cash or the credit card for them, that is tax deductible. And why not make it tax deductible? But whereas when you go and pay for private travel, none of that's tax deductible, right? So you gotta be smart about it. So really, if you're going on any business trip, always pay for the flights. Secondly, if you are traveling for more than 6 nights, you will need to keep a travel diary. And the ATO says that you are required a travel diary that looks at and records where you were, what you were doing, when you stopped for meals, the dates, the start dates, what time of the day you did who, what, where, and just basically a lot of details about the activities. So if you happen to extend your trip for private travel, that private travel can't be covered by the business and it can't be tax deductible. But if, say for example, what you can do is if your business had paid for a flight and you were going away for 2 days that were business related, and your business has paid for some flights and accommodation, and you're going away for 5 days in total. 2 of those days are business related and the other 3 days are private in nature, right? You're catching up with some friends or whatever, you're just seeing the sights wherever you're traveling to. So what would happen is we would say 2 out of 5 days of that flight would be tax deductible, right? So we take a proportion of it. So that would be effectively 40% of the flight would be tax deductible. The nights that you're in the accommodation, we would claim that accommodation. But those nights where you're doing the private travel, we would not claim that. So effectively, this works really well in that the business, if you were to go and travel yourself to that destination just purely for private travel, you would either use the points you accumulated, or if you don't have the points, you might go, hey, I'm going to pay for the flights because that's my only option. And if you were to pay for your flights and just were going away purely for private purposes, none of that's tax deductible. But if you were going away for business and just so happens that now you are tapping on a little bit of private travel, I still can't claim 100% of that flight, but now I can claim part of that travel. And it means that basically you're still getting to that destination, and part of that cost of getting there is being covered by the business and it's tax deductible. So wrapping up, guys, that is 4 things we're talking about on how you can have the holidays of your dreams, have a business that is serving you and funding your holidays. So just to recap, what we're talking about is finding the right credit card. Like I said, I recommend the American Express Qantas Business Rewards Card. A link to that card will be in the bio here. Click on the link and there is always like a bonus points for signing up as well. I recommend you have a look into that. Just check it out and see how it works for you. Next thing is finding a rewards program that suits you. So personally for me, I think Qantas is great because it's just not about the points that Qantas gives you and the Amex or the credit card you use. Outside of that, all the other different businesses that are partnered with Qantas to then give you points as well. And of course, the next thing we talked about was basically having a business that serves you, having the right framework, and we touched a little bit on profit first and really having the right framework and systems to make sure the business is got the cash flow there to continue paying you, and thinking about systems and staff and making sure that it can operate by itself without you so it's not dependent on you. And then lastly, thinking about how business tax deductions and a travel diary when it might be needed to justify travel costs. Guys, if you enjoyed today's podcast, thank you for tuning in. Let us know if you're signing up to these reward programs. And remember, it's just about using what's out there to help cover the costs of a holiday that your family deserves and that you deserve. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.